You see, one of the biggest mistakes men make when they feel a woman pulling away is that they immediately turn all their energy outward. They start asking, what can I do to make her like me again? What should I say? How often should I call? Should I buy her gifts? Should I chase harder? And in doing so, they make the fatal error of putting her at the center of their life while abandoning themselves in the process. The truth is, when you lose yourself, you lose your power. And when you lose your power, you lose the very attraction that made her interested in you in the first place. The very first step to regaining a woman's interest is not about her at all. It's about you. It's about shifting your focus back to yourself. And I don't mean this in a selfish, careless way. I mean it in the most powerful, life-changing sense possible. Think back to the time when she first noticed you, when her eyes lit up being around you. Was it because you were sitting around thinking about her every minute? No, it was because you had a certain energy, a certain presence, a certain direction in life. You had goals, you had confidence, you had things going for you. That is what drew her in. That is what sparked her interest. And that is exactly what you need to reconnect with now. When you make her the center of your universe, she begins to feel like you have no center of your own. And let me tell you, there is nothing less attractive than a man who has abandoned his sense of self. A woman may appreciate your attention. She may even feel flattered by it for a moment, but it will not keep her interest alive. Interest doesn't come from desperation. It comes from inspiration. It comes from her looking at you and saying, wow, this man has something powerful within him. He is someone I want to be around, someone I want to be part of. And you only create that kind of energy when you put the focus back on yourself. So what does this actually look like? It means getting back to your purpose. It means remembering the things that made you feel alive before you ever met her. It means taking care of your body, your health, your career, your passions. It means living in such a way that even if she is not there, your life is still full, still meaningful, still strong. Because the truth is, a woman is not attracted to a man who needs her to survive. She is attracted to a man who chooses her out of strength, not out of weakness. When you wake up in the morning, what is the first thing you do? Do you reach for your phone to see if she has texted you back? Or do you reach for your vision, your goals, your habits that build the life you want to live? That simple decision tells the world where your focus lies. If your entire mood depends on whether or not she sends a message, you've already given away your power. And nothing kills attraction faster than giving away your power. But when you wake up with discipline, when you wake up determined to grow, to push yourself, to achieve something, to contribute something, then your energy shifts completely. You begin to radiate strength again. You begin to walk differently, speak differently, carry yourself differently. And women notice that. They notice when you are no longer orbiting around them, but instead standing firm in your own orbit, pulling them toward you with gravity instead of chasing them desperately. Now, some of you might think, but if I stop focusing on her, won't she feel like I don't care? And that's where you need to understand the difference between neglect and strength. This is not about ignoring her or acting like she doesn't exist. It's about not losing yourself in the process of trying to win her back. It's about balancing your attention for her with your attention for yourself. A man who forgets himself to please a woman is not attractive, but a man who knows himself, who values himself, and who still chooses to give her his presence, that is magnetic. That is the kind of man she cannot help but respect. And here's the irony: when you stop chasing, when you stop obsessing, when you stop putting her above yourself, that's when she begins to notice you again. That's when she begins to wonder what you're up to, why your energy feels different, why you're no longer begging for her attention. That's when curiosity kicks back in. That's when interest is reignited, not because you tried to force it, but because you became the man who naturally inspires it. So let me leave you with this truth. If you want her interest back, stop trying to get it from her. Start building it within yourself. Become the man who is so focused on his own growth, his own purpose, his own strength, that she can't help but want to be part of it again. Because at the end of the day, the most powerful way to regain her interest is to first regain yourself. When most men feel a woman losing interest, they panic and think the solution is to simply get more of her attention. They start calling more often, texting more frequently, sending long messages, or showing up uninvited just to remind her they exist. But attention is not the same as attraction. A woman can give you her attention for a moment, but if she doesn't feel anything when she's with you, that attention quickly fades. What you need to focus on is not how to get her eyes on you, but how to reignite the spark that makes her want to stay. And that spark is emotional attraction. Think about it. Why do relationships in the beginning feel so alive, so full of energy? It's because of how you made each other feel. There was curiosity, laughter, excitement, unpredictability. She wasn't thinking about how many times you texted in a day. She was thinking about how she felt when she was around you. And that is what you need to bring back if you want to regain her interest. Emotional attraction comes from presence. It's about how you show up when you are with her. Are you distracted, insecure, constantly seeking reassurance? Or are you calm-centered, playful, and fully engaged? Women can sense when a man is desperate for validation, and they can sense when a man is secure in himself. One drains her energy, the other draws her in. That's why the goal is not to bombard her with words or to attention, but to create experiences and moments that remind her why she was drawn to you in the first place. And here's the truth: attraction is less about what you say and more about what you embody. You can send 100 good morning texts, but if they feel forced or needy, they only push her further away. Yet you can say very little. And if your presence carries confidence, lightness, and authenticity, she will naturally lean back toward you. That's the power of emotional energy. That's the power of how you make her feel without trying to convince her with words. So how do you rebuild this attraction? You start by reconnecting with your own playful, confident side. Don't try to impress her with seriousness or constant discussions about where things are going. Instead, focus on creating moments of fun, of laughter, of lightness. Tease her gently, share stories that inspire emotion, bring out the parts of yourself that used to make her smile. Because women don't fall for a man because of his long explanations or begging speeches. They fall for how he makes their world feel brighter. At the same time, emotional attraction also comes from depth. It's not just about being funny or entertaining. It's about showing emotional intelligence. When she speaks, are you really listening? Not listening to reply, but listening to understand. Are you able to read her emotions, notice the little things, validate her without being overly submissive? A man who can make a woman feel understood without losing himself in the process creates a magnetic pull. She begins to feel safe, seen, and connected, and that is far more powerful than any attention-seeking gesture. Now, let's be clear. Rebuilding attraction is not about performing or pretending to be someone you're not. Women can see through that. It's about reconnecting with the qualities that are naturally within you, but might have been buried under desperation or fear. When you were first together, you weren't trying so hard. You were being yourself. You laughed easily. You were confident in your own space. You had things going on in your life. That authenticity is what she responded to. If you can bring that back, not by acting, but by truly living it again, you will feel the shift. She will feel it too. And one more thing, stop thinking that more access equals more attraction. If you are constantly available, constantly checking in, constantly responding within seconds, she feels no mystery, no curiosity. Attraction thrives on a bit of uncertainty, a bit of space. When she doesn't know exactly what you're doing every second of the day, her mind begins to wonder about you again. And when her mind wanders, her emotions awaken. That's why pulling back and focusing on rebuilding yourself while still showing up with strength when you do interact creates the perfect balance. You're not ignoring her, but you're also not suffocating her. You're giving her just enough space to feel curiosity and just enough presence to feel connected. At the heart of it all, remember this: you cannot beg your way into her emotions. You cannot force her to feel something by talking her into it. Emotions are triggered, not convinced. Attraction is built, not demanded. So stop chasing her attention as if that's the prize. The prize is wielding the energy between you, the spark, the connection that made her look at you differently. And that comes from presence, confidence, humor, emotional depth, and authenticity. When you shift from trying to get her attention to creating emotional attraction, everything changes. You no longer feel desperate because you're not begging for scraps. You're offering something real. She no longer feels pressured because she's not being chased, she's being drawn in. And slowly but surely, that distance you felt begins to close, not because you forced it, but because she felt something powerful again when she was with you. So if you truly want to regain her interest, stop asking yourself, how can I get her to notice me? And start asking, how can I make her feel alive again when she's around me? Because at the end of the day, attention might win her eyes for a moment, but emotional attraction is what wins her heart back. One of the greatest mistakes men make when they sense a woman's interest fading is that they start talking too much. They begin explaining themselves, promising change, overusing words in hopes of convincing her to come back, and making endless declarations about how much she means to them. But here's the problem: words, when they're not backed by action, lose their weight. You can say, I'll change 100 times, but if your lifestyle looks exactly the same, she won't feel anything different. You can promise you'll do better, but unless your behavior reflects it, those words are empty. A woman doesn't want to be convinced with speeches. She wants to feel the difference through what you actually do. Think about it. When you first caught her attention, it wasn't because you were constantly telling her how amazing you were. You didn't walk around with a speech prepared about why she should like you. She saw it in your actions. Maybe it was in how you carried yourself, how you pursued your goals, how you interacted with people, how you took care of yourself, or even just the quiet confidence in how you walked into a room. She noticed the energy you brought, not because you announced it, but because you lived it. That's why now, if you want to reignite that interest, you have to stop trying to talk her into it and instead let your actions speak louder. A woman wants to see the consistency between your words and your life. If you say you're disciplined, let it show in how you handle your mornings, your work, your body, your commitments. If you say you're focused, let her see it in the way you guard your time and energy instead of wasting them away on distractions. If you say you've grown, then live in such a way that no explanation is needed. She can see the transformation in your daily habits, your confidence, your discipline. When your life reflects your words, she doesn't have to ask whether you're serious. She feels it. But here's where many men fail. They think doing grand gestures is enough, buying expensive gifts, sending long emotional letters, or making promises about the future. The truth is, those gestures only matter when the foundation of your life is strong. No gift can make up for a man who is lost in himself. No letter can cover up the lack of direction. A woman wants to be inspired by how you live, not persuaded by what you say. That's why your best strategy is not over-talking. It's silently demonstrating the man you are becoming. When you focus on action, you begin to carry yourself differently. Imagine walking into a room knowing you've been consistent with your fitness, your career, your goals, your mindset. That confidence doesn't come from words. It radiates naturally. People notice. She notices. Suddenly, you don't have to remind her of your value. Your life is reminding her for you. And this creates curiosity. It makes her wonder, what's changed about him? Why does he seem more grounded, more secure, more alive? That's the kind of curiosity that pulls her interest back in. This doesn't mean ignoring her or never communicating. It means letting your communication be supported by actions. Instead of telling her you're improving, show her by being consistent. Instead of promising her a better version of you, let her see it unfold. Instead of endlessly repeating, I miss you, or I love you. Let your calm presence, your growth, your balance make her feel that truth without you having to say it every hour, because attraction is never built on repetition of words. It's built on demonstration of strength. And remember, action isn't only about what you do for her. It's about what you do for yourself. A woman is not drawn to a man who makes her his entire project. She is drawn to a man who is busy building his own life, his own vision, his own foundation. That's why when you start working on yourself, not just to impress her, but because you refuse to stay stuck, you create an energy shift that is undeniable. You're no longer chasing her to complete you. You're showing her that you're already complete. And that's when she begins to feel the pull again. So ask yourself, what does your daily routine look like? What do your actions say about you? Are you living as a man who needs to convince someone to care, or as a man who is already so valuable that care comes naturally? Every day, your life is sending a message, whether you speak or not. The question is, what message is it sending? Because if your words and actions are not aligned, she will only believe the actions. And if your actions reflect strength, purpose, and growth, then you won't need to chase interest. It will return on its own. At the end of the day, don't waste energy trying to explain your worth. Show it. Don't plead for her to see your change. Live it. Don't beg her to believe in your potential. Become it. When your life becomes the proof, you won't need to fight for her interest. She'll feel it every time she's around you. One of the hardest things for men to understand when a woman begins to pull away is the balance between giving her space and showing her presence. Most men fall into one of two extremes. Either they give too much space and disappear completely, which makes her feel abandoned, or they do the opposite and smother her with constant calls, texts, and desperate attempts to reconnect. Both extremes destroy attraction. What really works is mastering the balance, the art of giving her enough room to breathe while still showing up in a way that makes her feel your strength and energy. You see, attraction doesn't grow in suffocation. When you flood her with endless attention, she begins to feel pressure instead of connection. It doesn't feel like love to her. It feels like control, like you're trying to cage her into wanting you again. And the more pressure she feels, the more she will want to escape. On the other hand, if you completely vanish, if you act cold or distant out of pride or fear, she doesn't feel inspired to chase you either. She feels like you don't care, like the connection is already gone. Both of these are extremes and neither will bring her interest back. The answer lies in the middle ground, space mixed with presence. Space means allowing her the freedom to miss you, the freedom to feel curiosity again, the freedom to breathe without your constant need for validation. When you step back, it creates a gap, and that gap is powerful because it gives her mind a chance to wonder about you. It gives her emotions a chance to reset. It allows her to wonder, what's he doing? Why isn't he chasing me like before? What's changed? That wondering is what begins to stir her interest again. A woman cannot miss a man who never leaves her side, just like no one appreciates air until they step into a space where it's missing. She cannot appreciate your presence if you never give her the experience of your absence. But here's the key: space without presence is emptiness. You can't just disappear and expect her to magically fall back in love. You must balance that space with meaningful presence when you do interact. Presence means being fully there, fully engaged, fully confident. It's not about frequency, it's about quality. When you do speak to her, are you needy, questioning, and insecure? Or are you calm, grounded, and showing her a man who is secure in himself? Presence is not measured in how many texts you send. It's measured in how she feels when she's with you. When you master this balance, everything shifts. Instead of begging for her attention, you create curiosity by stepping back. Instead of chasing her, you allow her to feel the difference between your absence and your presence. And when she feels that contrast, she begins to realize the value of having you in her life again. She starts to sense that you are not desperate for her, but you are also not dismissive. You are in control of yourself. That balance is incredibly attractive. Now, some men fear that giving space means losing her forever. But the truth is, you don't lose someone by respecting their breathing room. You lose them by either suffocating them or neglecting them completely. Space, when combined with presence, gives her the opportunity to feel safe, respected, and drawn back in naturally. It's not about playing games, it's about showing strength. Because strength is not in chasing endlessly, and strength is not in cutting off completely. Strength is in holding yourself steady, being comfortable with both closeness and distance, and letting her come closer at her own pace. Think about it this way: fire needs both fuel and oxygen. Too much fuel smothers it, and too much oxygen blows it out. But the right balance of both makes it burn brighter. Relationships are the same. Your presence is the fuel. Your space is the oxygen. If you want her interest to reignite, you must learn how to give both in the right measure. That means not flooding her with constant attention, but also not retreating into silence. It means allowing her to feel the warmth of your energy when you are around and the subtle pull of your absence when you step back. The beautiful thing about this balance is that it not only rebuilds her interest, but it also rebuilds your power. Because suddenly, you are no longer chasing or withdrawing based on fear. You are choosing deliberately. You are choosing to step forward with strength and step back with wisdom. You are choosing to value yourself while still giving her space to value you too. And when she sees that you are not moved by insecurity, that you can handle both closeness and distance with confidence, her respect and attraction for you grow naturally. So if you want to bring her interest back, stop clinging and stop disappearing, learn the art of balance, let her miss you, but when she sees you, let her feel the strength of your presence. Create curiosity with space, but anchor it with the power of how you show up. Because in the end, a woman doesn't fall back in love with pressure, nor does she fall back in love with neglect. She falls back in love when she feels the mystery of your space and the magnetism of your presence working together. When a woman begins to lose interest, many men respond by lowering their standards, by accepting behaviors they normally wouldn't, by tolerating disrespect just to keep her around. They think if they become more agreeable, more available, more forgiving, then maybe she will stay. But what actually happens is the opposite. Every time you let go of your boundaries, every time you sacrifice your self-respect, you become less attractive, because attraction isn't built on weakness. It's built on strength. And strength is never about begging someone to treat you right. It's about leading with clarity and showing through your actions that your value is not up for negotiation. Boundaries are not about building walls or shutting people out. They're about knowing who you are, what you stand for, and what you will and will not accept. When you don't have boundaries, you communicate to her that she can treat you however she wants and you'll still be there. She can ignore you, disrespect you, use you for attention, you'll keep showing up. But here's the truth. No woman truly respects a man she can walk over. She may use him, she may keep him as an option, but respect and attraction cannot grow in the absence of boundaries. On the other hand, when you lead with strength, when you calmly but firmly show that you have standards, everything changes. Suddenly, she sees that your attention is valuable, not something to be taken for granted. She sees that you are not a man who will tolerate disrespect or disinterest without consequence. And that strength is deeply attractive, not because you're trying to control her, but because you're showing her that you control yourself. It's easy to think that setting boundaries might push her away, that if you stand up for yourself, you'll lose her. But the reality is, if you lose her by showing strength, she was never really yours to begin with. A woman who cannot respect your boundaries will never respect you as a man. And what's the point of regaining someone's interest if it means you have to sacrifice the very core of your self-worth? The right woman, the woman whose interest is worth having, will always be more drawn to a man who values himself. And here's where leadership comes in. A woman is naturally attracted to a man who leads not by force, not by arrogance, but by direction and conviction. Leadership means you know where you're going in life. It means you're not waiting for her to decide your worth or dictate your path. It means you make decisions from a place of strength, not desperation. When you lead, she doesn't feel pressure. She feels inspired. She doesn't feel like you're clinging. She feels like she's being pulled into something greater. Think about it. When you're constantly begging for her attention, you're following her energy instead of creating your own. You're waiting to see how she feels before deciding how you'll act. That's not leadership, that's dependence. And dependence never inspires attraction. But when you lead with confidence, when you show her that you know what you want, that you're willing to walk away from what doesn't serve you, that you refuse to live beneath your potential, that's when her interest begins to return, not because you demanded it, but because she can feel the strength of who you are. Now, boundaries are not about ultimatums or threats. They are about consistent action. If she disrespects you and you keep rewarding her with more attention, that's not a boundary. That's weakness. A boundary is when your actions align with your standards. If she pulls away and you chase harder, that tells her she can treat you however she wants. But if she pulls away and you hold your ground, focusing on yourself, refusing to beg, refusing to accept crumbs of attention, that communicates strength without a single word. And she feels it. She notices it. And the truth is, the greatest boundary you can ever set is the willingness to walk away when respect is gone. That willingness is not about anger. It's about power. Because when you know you don't need to beg, when you know your value stands, whether she chooses to see it or not, you carry yourself differently. That energy alone is magnetic. It tells her that your world doesn't collapse without her, that your worth is not tied to her decisions. And that strength is what often makes her interest return, because she realizes you are not like other men who crumble under pressure. So remember, regaining a woman's interest is not about giving her everything she demands at the cost of your dignity. It's about leading with clarity, standing firm in your values, and showing through your actions that your respect for yourself comes first. A woman may test you, she may push to see how much she can get away with, but when you hold the line with calm confidence, her attraction grows, not because you played a game, but because you showed her that you are a man she can respect. At the end of the day, you don't win her interest back by bending over backwards, by erasing your boundaries, or by surrendering your strength. You win it back by standing tall, by leading with direction, by making it clear that you choose love from a place of power, not desperation. And when you live that truth, you'll never need to beg for her interest. It will naturally find its way back to you.